A giraffe stops traffic on a bridge. The reason why will shock you. The golden African sun crept over the horizon, painting the Johannesburg bypass bridge in hues of amber and rose. Steel cables stretched like silvery spider webs against the dawn sky, their massive supports casting long shadows across the growing stream of morning traffic. The bridge, a marvel of modern engineering spanning the valley below, hummed with the familiar symphony of city life awakening. Traffic Officer Sarah Mbeki adjusted her reflective vest, taking a moment to savor her morning coffee from her worn thermal flask. After 15 years monitoring this crucial artery of Johannesburg's infrastructure, she knew every sound, every vibration, every rhythm of the morning rush. The gentle purr of electric vehicles mixed with the deeper rumble of diesel trucks, the click-clack of the expansion joints marking each vehicle's passage across the bridge created a steady metropolitan heartbeat. Below, the wildlife sanctuary sprawled across the protected valley, its perimeter marked by tall fences and warning signs. Occasionally, Sarah would catch glimpses of the sanctuary's residents, zebras grazing in the morning mist, or the distant silhouette of a giraffe's neck reaching toward the acacia trees. It was this unique juxtaposition of urban development and wild Africa that made her post special, a daily reminder of humanity's delicate balance with nature. The first indication that this morning would be different came not from what Sarah saw, but from what she heard, or rather, what she didn't hear. The steady rhythm of traffic suddenly faltered like a skipped heartbeat in the city's pulse. Then came the sound that would mark the beginning of an extraordinary day, the prolonged screech of brakes, followed by a cascade of car horns and the unmistakable gasps of amazed onlookers. Through the morning haze, a sight emerged that made Sarah question her own eyes. There, moving with impossible grace between the stopped vehicles, was a full-grown giraffe. Its spotted coat caught the early morning light, creating a living mosaic of golden and brown patches. The animal's neck swayed gently above the roofline of even the tallest SUVs, its elegant head turning to survey the growing chaos with an almost regal calm. "Nobody's gonna believe this," muttered a taxi driver, his phone already recording the surreal scene. More vehicles screeched to a halt, creating a growing circle of space around the magnificent creature. The giraffe, standing nearly 6 meters tall, continued its unhurried progress onto the bridge proper, each step of its long legs deliberate and measured. Sarah's training kicked in even as her mind struggled to process the scene. She grabbed her radio, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. "Control, this is Officer Mbeki at Johannesburg Bypass Bridge. We have a giraffe on the bridge, not near the bridge, on the bridge, requesting immediate wildlife control and traffic management support." The response crackled back almost immediately, the dispatcher's voice carrying a note of disbelief. "Please repeat that last transmission, Officer Mbeki. Did you say a giraffe?" Dr. Maya Vandermeer was elbow-deep in medical charts when her emergency phone buzzed. The veteran wildlife veterinarian had just finished her morning rounds at the African Wildlife Sanctuary, checking on a newly rescued baby rhinoceros when the call came through. 20 years of experience with African wildlife had taught her to expect the unexpected, but the dispatcher's words made her pause mid-stride. "A giraffe on the Johannesburg Bypass Bridge?" she repeated, already reaching for her emergency kit. "Send me the live feed." The video on her phone showed exactly that, a full-grown giraffe creating chaos on one of the city's busiest bridges. But it wasn't just any giraffe. Maya's trained eye caught the distinctive markings immediately. "Temba," she whispered, recognizing the heart-shaped patch on his left shoulder. This was the same young male she'd helped rehabilitate after poachers had taken his mother 2 years ago. Within minutes, Maya was in her customized rescue vehicle, its specialized equipment rattling as she navigated through morning traffic. The vehicle, modified specifically for large animal emergencies, carried everything from tranquilizer guns to portable medical diagnostic equipment. Her mind raced through potential scenarios, each based on years of experience in wildlife crisis management. "This is Dr. Vandermeerwet, incoming to Johannesburg bypass," she radioed ahead. "I need all civilian vehicles held at least 100 meters back and get me thermal imaging equipment on scene. We need to monitor his stress levels." As she approached the bridge, Maya's calm demeanor masked the gravity of the situation. Her colleagues often joked that she had giraffe whisperer powers, but the truth was far more practical. She had dedicated her life to understanding these magnificent creatures, publishing numerous papers on their behavior and psychology. Her methods, though sometimes unconventional, were grounded in deep scientific understanding and respect for wildlife. "I used to think I'd seen everything in this job," she remarked to Officer Mbeki as she efficiently set up her equipment. "But Temba here seems determined to prove me wrong." Her voice carried a warmth that belied the tension of the situation, a characteristic that had helped her handle countless wildlife emergencies. Maya's approach to the situation was methodical yet innovative. While others saw a dangerous disruption, she saw a distressed animal trying to communicate something. Her fingers flew over her tablet, pulling up Themba's medical history, while simultaneously directing her team to set up a mobile command center. "People think giraffes are just gentle giants," she explained to the gathering emergency responders, her South African accent tinged with the passion of someone deeply connected to their work. "But they're incredibly complex creatures with acute senses we're only beginning to understand. Themba's here for a reason. We just need to figure out what it is." The situation rapidly evolved into a complex web of challenges that nobody's emergency response manual had prepared them for. Maya's initial assessment revealed complications that went far beyond the obvious question of how to safely remove a giraffe from a bridge. "We need to establish a secure perimeter," Maya instructed, her voice carrying the weight of experience. "Temba's showing signs of elevated stress. See how his ears are twitching? And that slight sway in his neck? These aren't normal behaviors, even for a displaced giraffe." She turned to Officer Mbeki, who had been efficiently coordinating with emergency services. "We need at least 100 meters of clear space in all directions." The arrival of additional wildlife experts and emergency services created a new layer of complexity. Dr. James Chen, the city's leading structural engineer, arrived breathless after rushing from a meeting. His face grew increasingly concerned as he consulted his tablet, pulling up the bridge's architectural specifications. "We have a weight distribution issue," he explained, pointing to a complex diagram. The bridge was designed to handle distributed loads, vehicles spread across its surface, but a giraffe's weight concentrated on those 4 points. He shook his head. "We're looking at approximately 1,900 kilograms of pressure focused on areas barely larger than dinner plates." The sanctuary's chief veterinarian, Dr. Lisa Nomo, arrived with a mobile medical unit, adding her expertise to the growing team. "Maya, look at this," she called, reviewing recent medical records on her laptop. "Temba's last blood work showed some anomalies. We dismissed them as minor variations, but now She turned to the screen, showing complex charts of blood protein levels and hormone markers. Maya's eyes widened as she studied the data. Something wasn't adding up. Giraffes were known for their acute senses, particularly their vision and hearing, but Temba's behavior suggested something more was at play. The mobile command center hummed with activity as multiple screens displayed data streams from various monitoring equipment. Dr. Maya van der Merwe stood at the center of this technological hub, her eyes darting between thermal imaging displays and real-time biochemical analysis readouts. "Look at these hormone levels," she pointed to a complex chart. "Themba's cortisol readings are elevated, but not in the pattern we typically see with stress responses. There's something else triggering these physiological changes." She turned to Dr. Nkomo, who was analyzing atmospheric data from portable sensors positioned around the bridge. The air sampling equipment beeped steadily, its digital display showing trace amounts of various compounds. Dr. Chen, who had been consulting with geological experts via video link, Maya, cross-referencing these atmospheric readings with the subsoil composition data from last month's infrastructure survey. The results were startling. Trace amounts of methane and other gases, barely detectable by their most sensitive equipment, showed a distinct pattern of increase over the past few weeks. But what really caught their attention was the correlation with Themba's blood work from his recent checkups. "Giraffes have always been known for their acute senses," Maya explained to the gathered team, pulling up recent research papers on her tablet. "Their height gives them an evolutionary advantage in detecting predators, but new studies suggest their sensory capabilities go far beyond what we previously understood. Their vomeronasal organ, responsible for detecting chemical signals, is far more sophisticated than we realized." Dr. Nkomo nodded enthusiastically, pulling up her own research data. "In our sanctuary studies, we've observed unusual behavior patterns in our giraffes days before seismic events. We attributed it to atmospheric pressure changes, but this..." She gestured at the combined data streams. "This suggests they're detecting chemical signatures we can barely measure with our most advanced equipment." The team worked methodically, piecing together environmental readings, behavioral observations, and historical data. Each new piece of information added to a growing picture that none of them had anticipated when they arrived on scene that morning. The implications of their discoveries rapidly expanded beyond the immediate situation. Dr. Chen's team had begun cross-referencing similar incidents worldwide, finding a pattern that had gone unnoticed until now. "There was a case in Kenya last year," he reported, projecting a series of news articles and research papers onto the command center's main screen. A herd of giraffes abandoned their usual feeding grounds 3 days before a significant geological event. Local scientists documented the behavior, but couldn't explain it at the time. Similar reports emerged from Tanzania, Uganda, and even zoos in Europe, where giraffes had exhibited unusual behavior preceding infrastructure failures or geological disturbances. The scientific community had dismissed these as coincidences or stress responses to environmental changes. Now, they appeared to be part of a larger pattern. Just as the team thought they were making progress, new complications arose. The bridge's vibration sensors began showing concerning readings. The combination of stopped traffic, emergency vehicles, and Themba's movement was creating unusual stress patterns in the structure. "We need to evacuate non-essential personnel immediately," Dr. Chen announced, his voice tense as he studied the real-time structural analysis. "The bridge's harmonic frequency is being affected by the concentrated weight distribution. We have less time than we thought." Maya's team faced a critical decision. The standard protocols for large animal sedation couldn't be safely implemented on the bridge. The risks of Themba falling during sedation were too high. Yet every minute they delayed increased the structural risks to the bridge itself. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Sarah Mbeki, who had been quietly observing Temba's behavior patterns, noticed something crucial. "Dr. van der Merwe," she called out, "look at his head movements. He keeps turning toward the same section of the bridge, always at the same angle." This observation proved key to understanding the bigger picture. Thermal imaging cameras, repositioned based on Sarah's observation, revealed a subtle temperature anomaly in the bridge's structure. Further investigation with ground-penetrating radar confirmed their suspicions. A hairline crack in the bridge's internal structure was allowing gases to escape from deep underground. The final phase of the rescue operation required precise coordination between multiple teams. Using a combination of familiar scents from the sanctuary, carefully positioned vehicles, and acoustic deterrents, they created a safe corridor for Temba's exit. The moment of truth came as Maya's team implemented their plan. The ground teams had to time their movements perfectly, working with Temba's natural instincts rather than against them. The setting sun cast long shadows across the bridge as they began the delicate process of guiding him to safety. The incident's impact extended far beyond that dramatic day on the bridge. Within months, research teams from around the world were studying the potential of using giraffes as early warning systems for geological and structural anomalies. Their unique sensory capabilities, combined with their natural behavior patterns, offered possibilities that no one had previously considered. Temba became the face of a new conservation movement, highlighting how protecting wildlife wasn't just about preserving nature, it was about learning from it. His story appeared in scientific journals and conservation publications worldwide, changing how people viewed the relationship between urban development and wildlife preservation.